I had it all the time. I had my voice. I had it all the time. There is a book that is entitled Acres of Diamonds. That's the true story of a farmer in Africa who had heard about all of these other people who had discovered diamonds on the land that they owned and had made fortunes from it. So this man wanted to have the same thing and the same chance happen to him. So what he did was he took the property that he owned and he sold it. Thank you, Sam. He sold it and started off looking for diamonds. And he traveled over the continent of Africa in search of diamonds. And as you can imagine, Africa being the vast continent that it is, but yet he didn't find the diamonds that he longed for. After a few years of searching, he became desperate and despondent. And unfortunately, one day when he had reached his wit's end, he threw himself into the river and drowned. Meanwhile, the farmer that he'd sold the property to was walking across the property, and he stumbled on something. Something hit his foot as he was crossing the stream. And he looked down and he saw this object. He picked the object up, took it to his house, he placed it on his mantle. A few weeks later, one of his friends stopped by to visit. And as he was walking around the house, he spotted the object that was on the mantle. And he walked up to him and he picked it up and he weighed it in his hands, examined it and looked at it. And he called his friend excitedly. He said, "Do you know what this is?" He said, "Well, I found it out on the property. It was thought it was a crystal or something like that." He said, "No, this is one of the biggest diamonds I've ever seen." And it turned out to be exactly that. It turned out to be one of the largest diamonds ever discovered. And the thing of it is that the man who first owned the property had gone off all kinds of other places in search of the diamond, and yet in his very own property that he initially owned, there were many, many more diamonds that were discovered there. So often, we are looking for something out there, something over there, something in some other place. We're looking for the grass to be greener on the other side. And this series this month is not about us getting rich or getting a lot of things and all of the abundance in that way. But what it's really designed to do is to make us become aware of the abundance that we already have. How much we already have. And that joy and gratitude frequency that we're talking about reaching and talking about having, that when we get on that joy and gratitude frequency, we become aware of and we remember how much we already have. And I'd like to offer for you this morning, and I have reminded you that Pam Grout in her book, Think and Grow Rich, has been an inspiration for this, but what she calls our joy and gratitude portfolio. Our joy and gratitude frequency portfolio. And there are several things that she says that are essential to adding to our portfolio that will help us to recognize and realize just how abundant we are, just how many riches we already truly have. The first is an alchemic capital. And many of us know that last month we talked about spiritual alchemy, but really it's about a climate change. It's changing our spiritual atmosphere so that we begin to see things in a new way. We recognize the magic that's already in us and the processes that we can use to help to transform our lives, to help to transform things that are happening for us. We realize that we already have the potential in us to turn things to gold, if you will, or to make things valuable in so many different ways. We are already endowed with that. So the first part of this portfolio is our spiritual capital. second aspect of our joy and gratitude portfolio is our creative capital. Creative. All of us are creative. Every last one of you are creative. Whether you are a musician, an artist, a photographer, a singer, people will ordinarily think of as being creative. There's much more to our creativity than those things. We enjoy the work that musicians and poets and artists and all kinds of other people provide for us. Even many of you that are sitting here have that as an outlet that you use to express that which is within you. But there's so many other ways in which we are creative. Being able to find order and beauty in things, being able to express those things, understanding that our thoughts are creative. And remember again, everything we see in this world is created twice. It's created first of all in our minds, and then it manifests in physical reality. And we have ways in which we can move through life, and we can create things, and we can experience things, and we can have things show up in our lives as a result of our creativity. The third aspect of this joy and gratitude frequency portfolio is adventure capital. Who doesn't like to have fun? Who doesn't like to find joy in life? Doing things that you ordinarily wouldn't do. I remember looking just a few weeks ago on social media and seeing one of my friends hot air ballooning, speaking of Arizona, out in Arizona. And I congratulated her, told her she looked like she was having fun, and she reminded me that she was inspired by the pictures that Emma and I posted when we took our own hot air balloon ride. And the things that happened there. We were going to go to Atlanta. She had a chance to go. I was going to go with her in September so that we could go to Six Flags and ride every roller coaster in the park. Because that's something we both really enjoy doing. We both love. I didn't get to go, but she got a chance to go. But adventure, a sense of adventure and a sense of enjoying things. And it doesn't have to be that dramatic, that drastic. Some of you have told me you'll never go up in a hot air balloon. And that's all right. But the thing of it is, something that's out of the ordinary that challenges you every day. It might be something as simple as going to a restaurant and ordering something you've never ordered before. Something that you might not ever order. It might be going home a different way. It might be taking the opportunity. I remember coaching a friend of mine through, she had never eaten by herself in a restaurant. And she kept saying, I can't do it, I can't do it, I can't do it. And I kept telling her, yes, you can, yes, you can. So the day that she did, she didn't tell me when she was going to do it. I just know I had a phone call. She said, okay, I'm sitting in the restaurant. I'm sitting here. I'm feeling like everybody's looking at me. I said, it's going to be okay. It's going to be all right. Now she goes anytime she wants to by herself. But adventure capital. The fourth aspect is social capital. What rich network of friends and family and loved ones that we truly have in our lives. People that enrich our lives. People that we could draw on and rely upon for inspiration, motivation, feeling love. People that we can lean on and cry, have a crying shoulder to lean on. People that sometimes will kick us in the butt to help us to understand that we need to stop our pity party and get up and move. People who show us unconditional love. People who are part of showing us and knowing that they have our best interests at heart. Our social capital that goes a long way in life in making things happen. And then finally, spiritual capital. Our spiritual capital. We are God in expression. We are human, but we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And in this process, we can grasp hold of those things and see those things begin to show up for us that are a part of our connection with the divine, but expressing that in so many different ways. Pam Grouse says that if we begin putting these things in our joy and gratitude frequency portfolio, she doesn't call it that, I call it that. the Joy and Gratitude Frequency Portfolio, she says she guarantees, and I'm going to stand with her, that there are 4 things that will show up as a result. The first thing is, and you have to pay attention to, but the first thing will be, is that there will be some type of sign or totem that begins to make itself evident to you everywhere you turn, that reminds you of your connection with the universe. She mentioned that the Pope says that it's a white flower for him, that when he's around, he sees white flowers everywhere. The second thing, which is very much like the first one, but that there's some type of gift or blessing that comes from nature. I know for me, outside of my house in the evening time and in the middle of the night and in the early mornings, there is a barred owl. There may be more than one, I've never figured out. But if you haven't heard the call of a barred owl, it's different, because there's another owl that's sometimes out there, but a barred owl has a distinctive call. And I will hear that barred owl many times of the night in the early morning. That's just, for me, a way of reminding me of my connectedness to all that is, that it's there. And it's just letting me know, hey, John, everything's all right. You're in the divine flow. All's right with the world. Everything happens and all of that. The third thing, and this is something sometimes people maybe fighting our traditional thinking and traditional way of looking at the world, oftentimes will have a problem with, but that's communication from, quote unquote, the other side. Because we talk about once a person dies, and people will say, well, I lost my friend, I lost my spouse, I lost this person, that person. No, you didn't lose them. They transitioned. They are still a part of us. They are still connected to us. But there'll be communication that will happen. And a lot of people get freaked out when you start saying this, and, oh no, but it's really, really connected with the idea that we all are in this time-space continuum, and where we look at things being passed and think about time in the sense of being a linear thing, we're really still connected. There's still that spiral. There are people that were a part of our Open Heart family. We could look all the way back to Emily and Mary Crutcher, and we can see Naomi Oliver. We can see our Sandra Breamy and our own Philip. There are different ways that I know that they still communicate with us. They still let Open Heart know that they love us and that they are around. Now, you hear those kinds of things. But I remember one Sunday morning, when we were located in the Galloway space, and I got there early, and I was walking down the hallway, and all of the lights were on, but the light that was right outside the room where we would meet over at Galloway was flashing like that, very rapidly, very rapidly. And I said, good morning, Mary. I know you're here. Thank you for reminding us of that. And sure enough, the light stopped. Another thing that Mary helped to happen, there was a period at which Open Heart, we were really in some dire financial circumstances. And I just kind of said, Mary, hey, we need your help here. And I went to, at the time, we had a post office box. A few days later, there was a letter. One of her relatives said, I didn't have an opportunity back then to do something on Mary's behalf, but she loved you all so much, and I wanted to just say thank you. And when I opened the envelope, there was a $1,000 check there from her, and I said, thank you, Mary. There's communication from the other side all the time. I laughed because I knew what the message was going to be this morning. And when Mae first started the keyboard up and it was going fast and all of that, I said, all right, Philip. Just letting us know that you're here. But when we do those things, that happens. And then the final thing, once you put this into action and you begin to do these things, after the connection with the quote-unquote the other side, then you start letting go of those long-held beliefs, things that you think were absolutely true. You start to let some of those things go and see other things show up in your life. And what this does is, once we get into the idea of expressing joy and gratitude for everything that we have, and I mean everything, it transforms things. It takes us to another plane, if you will. We get out of the idea of duality and we become involved in this unified state. And I've said this over and over and over again, but it only became apparent to me really got cemented in my mind early this morning when I was in the shower. Because the idea that there are certain things that we call good and certain things that we call bad. If you add things up on a particular day, and I've got these things that are happening that are quote unquote good, then I'm having a good day. But if I got an overwhelming sense of things not going so well, somebody asks me, how's your day? It's a bad day. But if we would just learn, and I'm not saying this is easy, but if we would learn to just simply be grateful and thankful for whatever happens, whether we label it good or label it bad, then transformation happens. Things start to show up for us. We begin to recognize the beauty in life and begin to see them happening for us. There's a story about a man who started to learn these things. And one of the things that he decided to do was to put it into action. And he said, this sounds really kind of crazy because, when things are going good, I can appreciate that. I can do that. But when things aren't going so good, to still appreciate those things, still express gratitude for those things, it's a little hard for me to do that, but I'll do it. I'll give it a try. I know you say that's what I'm supposed to do. I'll try it. So he went out of town and he rented a car to go out of town. Got back to town. He joined some of his friends at a bar to celebrate one of them's birthday or something like that, and all was well. And he was happy about those experiences, still thinking about, I'm supposed to accept everything that comes and just simply be grateful for it. Yeah, I'm grateful for the trip I had. I'm grateful for my friend. I'm grateful for time together to get out there, that social capital, and spend things and do all of that. That's great. But as he drove home, he was in his car at that point, and he drove home, and he got ready to open the garage, and he realized the garage opener wasn't there. And then he realized also that he had left his garage opener in the rental car. So he had to go in, get in the house in another way, and do all of that. And then, after he got in the house, he realized that while he was back at the bar, he had left his debit card there. And by that time, the bar was closed. He was upset. But he said, okay, but I'm supposed to be grateful for everything, so I'm going to be grateful for leaving my garage door opener in the rental car. I'm grateful for leaving the debit card at the bar. I'm going to try. So the next morning, he got in his car, and he was on his way to the bank because he didn't have his debit card. He knew he was going to need some cash for the day, so he'd go to the bank to get some cash. On his way, he decided to call the car rental company and to say, I left my garage door opener in the car. Did anybody turn it in? And while he got on the phone with the manager, the rental company, an employee of the rental company, his 3-year-old son decided to have a meltdown. So while he's trying to talk on the phone, his son's in the back of the car screaming and all of that, and he's going, okay, but I'm thankful for whatever's happening. I'm thankful for all of this. So they told him that nobody had found the garage door openers. Okay, I'll just go ahead and go to the bank and maybe it'll show up or something. As he pulled up into the bank parking lot and he looked around, the exact car that he rented was sitting there with the man in the car. He walked over to the man. He said, "Is this your car?" He said, "No, it's my son. He rented it." And all of that. He explained the story to him and everything. The man allowed him to look to him. Boom, lo and behold, there was the garage door open. Something in him told him to just drive by the bar because he knew they wouldn't be open until much later. But he decided to do so anyway. As he drove up, the owner of the bar was sitting outside on the patio on his phone. So he walks over to him. He explains to him what's happening. They said, "We were trying to figure out who this belonged to." They went back in the office and retrieved the debit card. And the owner told him, he said, "You're lucky because normally I'm not here at this time of day, but I had to meet some workers here to do some repairs on the place." And then he realized that as everything happens, to greet them with gratitude, to be thankful for all. The scriptures remind us that in all things, give thanks. That as we practice that joy and gratitude frequency, it transforms things. It makes stuff happen. And so it is.
So it is.